The atmosphere is sending a warning signal. Right now, across the continental United States, a massive weather pattern is reorganizing itself in ways we rarely see. The jet stream is contorting. Temperature gradients are sharpening. Energy is building in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This isn't a typical February cold front. What's developing is a complete reversal of our weather regime. A pattern flip so dramatic that by Valentine's Day, the United States will be divided into zones of extreme warmth and dangerous cold. And trapped between these warring air masses, a corridor of violent weather is about to emerge. Meteorologists are watching the data with growing concern. The models have been consistent for days now, and that consistency is what worries us. When forecast models agree this far in advance about a major pattern change, we pay attention. When they show temperature anomalies this extreme, we start preparing. Something significant is coming. A monster high-pressure system is building over the center of North America. This ridge of warm air is massive in scale. It stretches from the Canadian border down through Texas, covering more than 1,000 miles. Within this dome, air is sinking, compressing, and heating up with alarming efficiency. The warmth will be extraordinary. We're not talking about a mild day or two. This is a sustained warm event that will challenge and potentially break February temperature records across the entire central United States. Cities that should be experiencing winter will instead feel spring or even early summer conditions. Denver could see temperatures near 80 degrees. Oklahoma City might push into the mid-80s. Even cities as far north as Rapid City and Bismarck could experience readings in the 60s and 70s. These aren't just warm days. These are temperature anomalies 30 to 40 degrees above normal. This is the kind of warmth that melts snowpack in hours, that confuses vegetation, that creates atmospheric instability we rarely see in February. But here's what makes this dangerous. This heat isn't staying put. The circulation around this massive ridge is going to pump that warmth eastward with tremendous force. The entire eastern United States is about to experience a temperature surge that will feel almost violent in its sudden arrival. The East Coast has been cold. Snow has been on the ground. Furnaces have been running continuously. Morning temperatures have been below freezing for weeks in many locations. That reality is about to be erased. Within 72 hours, cities from Atlanta to Boston will experience a warm-up so dramatic it will feel unnatural. We're looking at temperature jumps of 30, 40, even 50 degrees in some locations. Washington, D.C. will go from the 30s to potentially the 70s. New York City could see temperatures 25 to 30 degrees above normal. Boston, which should be locked in winter, may experience readings in the 50s and 60s. This warm air will arrive loaded with moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. The atmosphere will become unstable. The stage will be set for severe weather in regions that rarely see thunderstorms in February. When extreme heat meets stubborn cold, a line forms. Not a gradual transition. Not a gentle temperature change. A knife edge. Right now, that sharp temperature boundary is positioning itself from the northern plains through the Great Lakes and into the northeast. On one side of this line, temperatures will be dangerously warm. On the other side, Arctic air will still be fighting to maintain its grip. The temperature difference across this boundary will be staggering. 40 degrees, 50 degrees. In some cases, 60-degree temperature differences across just 200 miles of distance. This is not normal. This is the atmospheric equivalent of a fault line. And just like a geological fault line, when pressure builds along it, something has to break. That something will be weather systems. This boundary is going to act as a highway for low-pressure development. Storm after storm will form along this temperature gradient, each one feeding on the contrast between the colliding air masses. Temperature boundaries create storms. The physics are straightforward but violent. Warm air rises. Cold air sinks. Where they meet, the atmosphere becomes chaotic. Rotation develops. Low-pressure centers form. Weather systems intensify. This particular boundary is so sharp, so energized, that it's going to spawn multiple dangerous weather events over the next 2 weeks. We're going to see severe thunderstorms erupting on the warm side. We're going to see heavy snow developing on the cold side. We're going to see ice storms forming in the transition zones. Every weather hazard you can imagine in February is about to activate along this corridor. The models are converging on a date. February 14th. Valentine's Day. A significant low-pressure system appears likely to develop along that temperature boundary somewhere over the central United States. The exact location is still uncertain, but the threat is becoming clearer with each new model run. This storm will have a split personality on the warm side, across the southern plains, potentially extending into the Mississippi and Ohio valleys. We're looking at a severe weather outbreak. Not just isolated thunderstorms. An organized event with all the ingredients for dangerous storms. Moisture will be abundant. Wind shear will be strong. Instability will be extreme for mid-February. Tornadoes are possible. Large hail is possible. Damaging winds are likely. This could be the most significant severe weather event of the winter season. But that's only half the story. On the cold side of this same system, winter weather will explode. Heavy snow will develop across portions of the plains and Midwest. The exact track of the low-pressure center will determine who gets buried and who just gets grazed. But the potential for a significant winter storm is undeniable. Snowfall rates could exceed 2 inches per hour in the heaviest bands. Blizzard conditions are possible if winds increase as expected. Travel could become impossible across a multi-state area. Point 1 storm. 2 completely different threats. Both dangerous. The Mountain West is about to get hammered. The jet stream is positioning itself in a way that will direct system after system into the Rocky Mountains. This isn't one storm. This is a conveyor belt of moisture. Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Montana, all these states are about to see a significant increase in snowfall. Heavy mountain snow means dangerous avalanche conditions. Backcountry recreationists need to be extremely cautious. Highway travel through mountain passes will become treacherous. Interstate 70 through Colorado, Interstate 80 through Wyoming. These corridors could see multiple closures as snow piles up and visibility drops to 0. And remember, every storm that dumps snow in the Rockies will then emerge onto the plains. That's where it taps into the warmth. That's where it intensifies. That's where the severe weather begins. The Northeast won't escape this pattern. While major cities along the coast warm up, the interior and northern sections are going to get hit repeatedly by clipper systems, fast-moving storms dropping out of Canada. These clippers are relentless, 1 every 2 to 3 days, each bringing a quick burst of snow. Upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, northern Maine, these areas are going to see snow events stacking up. But here's the danger we're watching. If one of these clippers times perfectly with moisture from the south, it could phase into something much larger. A coastal storm. A nor'easter, the kind of system that buries the I-95 corridor. The southern plains are heading into dangerous territory. Not from snow, not from ice, from heat and instability. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, these states are about to experience warmth that will dry out vegetation and create severe weather fuel. We're talking multiple days in the 70s and 80s. This creates a loaded gun. Every time a storm system moves through, it will tap into this unstable air mass. And in February, when you get severe thunderstorms, they tend to be particularly dangerous because they're unexpected. People aren't prepared for tornadoes in winter. We're looking at multiple severe weather events possible across this region between now and February 20th. Each one will need to be monitored carefully. The Pacific is sending a message. An atmospheric river is taking aim at California and the Pacific Northwest. This plume of moisture is massive, stretching thousands of miles across the ocean. When it makes landfall, the impacts will be severe. Northern and central California are looking at flooding rainfall. We're talking 6 to 12 inches in some locations. Urban flooding will occur. Rivers will overflow. Mudslides will threaten areas burned by recent wildfires. The Sierra Nevada will see epic snowfall above 7,000 feet. 3 to 6 feet of snow is possible in the highest elevations. But this atmospheric river isn't a one-time event. The pattern supports multiple pulses of moisture. Wave after wave will slam into the coast between February 10th and 15th. Now we get to the truly concerning part. Everything I've described covers the first half of February. But the pattern doesn't end there. Long-range models are showing something ominous developing around February 15th. The polar vortex is becoming unstable. For those unfamiliar, the polar vortex is a massive circulation of cold air that normally stays locked over the Arctic. When it remains strong and stable, that cold air stays north. But when it weakens or splits, that's when Arctic air escapes. And right now, it's showing signs of major disruption. It means the warmth we're experiencing in mid-February could flip back to dangerous cold by the third week of the month. Not just cold. Arctic cold. The kind of cold that brings wind chills below zero as far south as the Gulf Coast. The temperature whiplash will be extreme. From the 70s and 80s to the teens and 20s in just days. When you bring Arctic air back into an active, moist pattern, you create the perfect environment for major winter storms. Historic winter storms often form during these transitional periods, when cold air is crashing south, when moisture is still abundant, when the atmosphere is chaotic and energized. Late February is setting up exactly this way that if the polar vortex disruption materializes as forecast, we could be looking at a period of significant winter storm development between February 18th and 25th. Multiple storms, major snowfall potential, widespread impacts. The uncertainty right now is high regarding specific details. We can't tell you exactly where these storms will track or how much snow will fall, but we can tell you the pattern supports it. Cities that warmed up and saw all their snow melt could be buried in fresh snow by month's end. Travel could become dangerous or impossible across large sections of the country. What we're looking at is a month divided into distinct chapters. The warm ridge and temperature flip. Valentine's Day, severe weather and snow threats. Atmospheric rivers hitting the west coast. The polar vortex disruption and Arctic air return. Major winter storm potential in the final week of February. Each chapter brings its own dangers. Each transition creates new hazards. The atmosphere is wound tight right now. This isn't a time for complacency. Check weather forecasts twice daily. Conditions will change rapidly. Have multiple ways to receive weather warnings. Prepare for temperature extremes in both directions. Stock emergency supplies now. Have backup plans for travel. The pattern we're entering has low predictability but high impact potential. We know big things are coming. We know the atmosphere is